like to welcome you to the Audit Review Committee. Our agenda today is listed and may be taken out of order. 2 or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. I'd like to call this meeting to order and thank those of you who are in person and those who may be watching via electronics. So we're going to start with a confirmation of posting and roll call. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. The agenda was posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law. We have 2 members absent today, members Judy DeShane and Christian Clinton, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now move to public comment. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. Those in council chambers can participate live. There's also the option for calling in 702-589-9629. So please call in if you have something. And then, Madam City Clerk, did we have anyone who emailed?
No written comments were submitted.
Thank you. We'll give a few minutes. Again, that number is 702-589-9629. Anybody on the phones?
No one's on the phone.
Great. Hearing no public comment at this time, we'll move on to the regular agenda. The first item for possible action is the approval of the October 27th, 2022 minutes. Do we have we have a motion?
I'll second that.
And a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that has been passed. We'll move on to number 2, and we will have our finance director, Cynthia Sneed, come up or sit right there and share with us and introduce item number 2. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, committee members. Good afternoon. I am Cynthia Sneed, your finance director. I wanted to start with a presentation on what this document is. So what we're asking you to review and approve today is our annual report, which is this big document here. But it's big and can be a little bit overwhelming. So I thought I might spend a couple of minutes just to kind of run through it so you better understand what's included in it. And then we'll move on to have the auditors do their presentation and then discussion for hopefully approval to recommend this to City Council. So there we go. So if you can follow along with your hard copy if you find that helpful. If not, that's certainly fine as well. So. All right, so what's included in the ACFR? The ACFR is the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which doesn't really roll off the tongue, but we call it the ACFR document. And it's the entire financial statements plus more. Hence the name comprehensive. There are 3 main sections to the report. There's the introductory section, the financial section, and the statistical section. And we'll go into a little bit of detail about what's included in each one of those sections. Okay, so as the title suggests, the introductory section contains material that introduces the reader of the document to the city. It includes a letter of transmittal that contains a profile of the city, and it contains information on the local economy. This section also includes information on budgetary control, and what that refers to the legal level at which, if we're going to make any adjustments to the budget, at what level does the council have to approve that? And we refer to that as the legal level of control. And the next part displays the individuals that govern the city. That includes the mayor, city council members, and management in detail of who they are. And then a nice picture of the org chart that demonstrates the same thing. I do want to note on this slide that the residents are at the top. They are definitely why we're here. All right. Did I go too far? I think I went too far. No, we're all right. Okay, so the last piece of the introductory section is my favorite part. It's our Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. So this is an award that we apply for every year. We've received 30-something of consecutive years of that report, or of that award. It's really significant that it's issued by the Government Finance Officers Association, which is the preeminent organization or association that governs our government finance profession. It's very important for us, and we will be submitting, well, back up, this certificate that you see in the document is for last year. We have to submit it, it gets reviewed and approved, so there's a delay, but we will be submitting the 23 document as well, and we believe that we have met all the criteria to win the award again. Okay, the financial section is the second section of the report, of the document, beginning with the independent auditor's report. That is where their opinion is given, and we received an unmodified or clean opinion this year, as we always have. And I'm going to not go into detail on that report because the auditors follow after my presentation, and I'll let them talk about in detail what that letter is and what the various paragraphs mean and whatnot. So the next piece is the management discussion and analysis. That provides financial highlights of the document, and it also provides comparative information. So we'll have the same financial information for fiscal year 22 and 23, and then we compare those and we give some narrative around any variances that exist. That's the analysis part of it. All right. Before we get into the actual financial statements, I want to give a little bit of description about that. There's two primary activities that are presented here. The first one is governmental activities. So we have financial statements around governmental activities, and those are the activities that are their taxes and intergovernmental revenues is what supports those funds, as opposed to the business type activities, which are user fee supported. So that's the primary difference, and you can see the various, we call them functions, which is a general government, public works. All of those are different functions. And then for the city, specific to the city of Boulder City, we've got the business type activities are the utilities, the airport, and the cemetery. Okay, so we start at the very most consolidated level, and that's the government-wide financial statements of the basic financial statements, and from there it goes, it drills down deeper and deeper into the various funds. The statements that are presented here are the statements of net position, which is what used to be called the balance sheet, so it's the current evolution of what the balance sheet was. And the other statement is the statement of activities, which is the current evolution of what you may be familiar with as an income statement. And both of these statements are prepared using the full accrual method of accounting, which is typically what you'd see in a business, corporate type of world. Okay, still in the financial statement section, we drill down a little bit deeper into the fund financials. And the first piece is the governmental funds. It presents a balance sheet, and an income statement type sheet statement, which is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. The governmental funds are presented in a different method of accounting. It's called the modified accrual method. Because that differs from what we just saw in the previous ones, a reconciliation is provided as well. So the reader can see what's the difference between the two statements. All right, and then the proprietary funds similarly have a statement of net position, which is the balance sheet, the income statement type, with an additional statement, which is a statement of cash flows. That shows you how the funds came and went in different areas. So there's that, and The next piece of the financial section is what we call RSI, that's required supplementary information. That's some disclosures on our pensions and our post-employment benefits. It's just disclosure in nature. And then we have other supplementary information. This is the final part of the financial section. It provides budget to actual information for every major fund that we have. So the largest of the funds are provided there. All right, the final section is the statistical section, and this has various schedules. Some are financial in nature, some are other, just sort of statistical type of information on debt, operations, property tax information, whatnot. But what's important about this is that it gives you a 10-year history. So you can, if you look at that, you can see trends of the various pieces and parts, which I think can be helpful in some cases. All right, the last section is all about the single audit. The single audit refers to our federal grant proceeds. It's how we have spent any of our federal grant awards. It has another independent auditor report. They look at this for compliance and internal controls primarily. It also includes a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. We call that the CFA. That lists out each different program and how much we spent, and then some notes to the CFA. Okay, and the very last one, I'm going to brag a little bit about the entire finance team. We talked earlier a little bit about the award, what we call the COA award, which is for this document. We also have other awards out there that the GFOA offers. One is the Popular Annual Financial Report, and then the budget document also is submitted for an award. Now, when you win all three of these, you get what's called a Triple Crown designation, and that is like the holy grail. That's really, really an awesome thing. And we have won that for 2 years, 3 years? I'm looking to my team.
It's the last 2 years. Yeah.
So something we're very, very proud of because it's quite an accomplishment. Very few, I want to say a couple hundred in the whole country and only one other city in Nevada that has earned that designation. So that's something we're very, very proud of. And then I also, before I forget, want to say a big shout out to Kyle. He's our accounting manager, who is the lead person in putting this document together and working with the auditors. So that's what the document is. If you ever have insomnia, pick it up, take a look. And then the next presentation is from the auditors. Are they online?
Yeah, are you, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Can I clicked on it. Oh. Trying to start up our video here so you can see us. Looks like our camera's not working, so we apologize for that. So yeah, we've got Chad Atkinson here, and I'm Crimson Singleton. We're with Hinton Burdick, and we worked on the audit this last year. We do have a slideshow. I don't know if I think we sent it to you. I don't know if you want to, if you have it pulled up there, or we want us to share our screen to show it. We can.
We do have that here. We just need to get it pulled up onto the screen.
We're not able to hear very well. Maybe a better alternative would be calling in.
Okay,
we'll try that right now. If somebody can hear us, can you please give us the call-in number?
The call-in number would be 702-589-9629. Okay.
702-589, what was the last four on that?
9629.
Okay, we'll try calling in right now. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Boulder City Public Comment Line. When released from hold, please state your name and provide your comment.
Hi, you've called in. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear us better?
A little bit better.
Okay, we'll go forward here. We apologize for technology. It just happens to not work all the time when you need it. So, this is Chad Atkinson speaking I'm the audit partner for this engagement, and I'm going to go over the first couple of slides here, and then I'm going to turn the time over to Crimson to go over some of the financial highlights. So, first of all, if you want to go to the next slide, we wanted to thank the city staff for their assistance in completing this engagement. Cynthia and Kyle and all of the staff in the finance office have been very helpful. They've allowed access to all the records that we needed to review as part of the process. Communication has been really good. We've had quite a few video calls back and forth, answering various questions that we've had. So we just appreciate the ability to kind of navigate through a difficult process to reach a final destination. So we appreciate that. We wanted to acknowledge the preparation of the annual financial report by the city. I think if you rewound the clock maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we were actually assisting in the preparation of the financial statements for the city. And a new finance director came in, said, hey, we think the city can do this. We agreed with them. And then that was transitioned over to the city to do. And since then, I think you've received, subsequent to that, these GFOA awards that Cynthia referenced earlier. So we appreciate working with a city like that takes ownership and does things that they can do and have the ability to do. So we appreciate that. Also, we wanted to mention just the audit timeline, being that we've fulfilled all of the requirements for submission in the state of Nevada to be able to submit an on-time delivery of this financial report. So we, again, want to congratulate the city for doing that. Let's go to the next slide, please. Cynthia already went over this in a little bit of discussion, but we did issue an unmodified opinion or clean opinion on the financial statements. Our independent auditor's report discusses what our responsibilities are, what management's responsibilities are, what the scope of our test work includes. So we're happy to report that there's a clean opinion. We believe there's no material modifications that need to be made to the financial statements as presented. A couple of other things that we wanted to point your attention to was on page 131, we issue a report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance. This requires us to walk through and understand the various processes that the city is using to prepare the financial reports. And if we come across any control deficiencies that we believe are significant or material, then we're required to report those to the audit committee and to the city council as needed. So we're happy to report that there were no findings that we came across that we believe were necessary to communicate. So there's no findings in this area related to internal controls or compliance. And then finally, those charged with governance, it's a separate letter. I will say that it's pretty standard. It's a pretty standard letter that we issue each year on various aspects of the audit. And not a lot changed there except for a mention of implementing a new governmental audit standard, which is GASB 96. I believe the city had a handful of what we call subscription-based information technology arrangements that were added to the financial report. So that's what the GASB 96 implementation referred to in that letter refers to. We believe that the standard was properly implemented. All of the related disclosures and reporting took place according to the standards. So now I'm going to, I think this is where we transition Crimson.
Yeah.
I'm going to transition to Crimson. She's going to go over a few financial highlights with you, and then we can answer any questions.
So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just kind of a high level overview here, and then we'll get into a few graphs or charts and things. So in your financial statements on page 28 and 29, that's where the governmental fund information starts. For this last fiscal year, there was a change in the fund balance. It was $14.6 million compared to $13.3 million in the prior year. And some of the factors contributing to that change, the revenues were up $7.9 million. A lot of that was, well, some of it was intergovernmental revenue. It was up $2.3 million. There was some increases in the GEMT revenues, almost $2 million there. And it kind of comes in sporadically, so that was kind of a few years. Fiscal year 20 to 23, you received some money for that this last fiscal year. And there was also $2.2 million in the ARPA grant funding that was spent, and the revenue is recognized this year. And then to kind of offset some of those increases, there was a little bit of a decrease in the regional transportation commission revenues and Clark County flood control revenues. They were down about $2.4 million, and it can kind of vary based on some of the projects in the Acquisition Improvements Fund. And investment income was up $3.3 million, which is a lot of the other factor in the increased revenues. Expenditures were up $5.7 million. A lot of it was increases in public works and public safety in the general fund, and there was a $1.8 million increase in the risk management fund for some settlements that were paid. So those are just kind of a few high level factors that went into some of the activity in the governmental funds. And then the proprietary funds, it starts on page 34 in your financial statements if you're interested in looking at any of the numbers there. The change in net position was $14.4 million compared to $7.9 million in the prior year. So it did go up quite a bit. There wasn't a lot of big items that caused that increase, but few things. In the operating revenues, they were actually down a little bit. A lot of that was due to decrease in water revenues because of less usage. But there was an increase in intergovernmental revenues due to some FAA grants. So a little bit of change there. And then operating expenses were down almost $2 million in the proprietary funds. And then in the non-operating section, it increased $2.2 million due to increased investment income. And there are also $2.1 million in transfers into the proprietary funds. So that's a few of the high-level funds information. We will mention, as Chad mentioned earlier, on page 47, it explains a little bit of the prior year adjustments related to GASB 96. It didn't really impact the fund balance too much because this GASB 96 is the SPITAs, the subscription-based IT arrangements. So there was a liability recorded and an offsetting asset for the right-to-use assets. So they didn't really impact your fund balance too much, but it did gross up the revenues and expenses a little, or the assets and liabilities, excuse me. So now we'll get into a few graphs, and we're going to go over some of the fund balances and net position balances in the funds, and just a reminder of what that means. If you take your total assets in the fund, subtract out all your liabilities, what's left is your fund balance or your net position. It's the resources available in the fund. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the general fund. That top line there is the unassigned fund balance. It's up $8.8 million to $25.8 million total unassigned fund balance. And this represents 8.54 months worth of operating reserves. So that's a pretty good position to be in. You have some resources there available in case, if something happened, you do have a little bit of leeway there. And then the unassigned fund balance is resources that can be used at the city's discretion. There's no strings attached. You can use as you'd like. And then that middle line there, that's the committed fund balance. It was up almost a little more than $500,000 up to $6.3 million. And this is your emergency reserve fund there. And then the bottom line that has about $400,000. This is non-spendable resources, so that's mainly consists of items for things like inventory and prepaid, or it's resources, but it's not spendable. It's tied up in inventory or prepaid items. So that's the general fund overall. It's trending up and went up quite a bit in the fiscal year. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the capital improvement fund balance. It's been steadily increasing over the last few years. It was up almost $2 million in fiscal year 23 to $18.7 million total fund balance. And this is restricted fund balance. And this fund accumulates resources related to the sale or lease of Boulder City land, and the proceeds are used for voter-approved projects. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Now we'll switch over to a couple of the proprietary funds. This is the utility fund. That blue line there, the top one, represents net investment in capital assets. It was up $11 million to over $60 million at the end of the year. There were $11.4 million in asset additions during the year, $3.2 million in depreciation of those assets during the year, and $1.8 million in debt payments for the year. So the additions in assets are increasing, so that caused that to increase there. The next line down, that's the unrestricted net position in the fund. It's up $2.2 million to $50.4 million at the end of the year, and that number represents 24 months worth of operating reserves. And the bottom line there is restricted net position. It was down $323,000 to almost $1.6 million, and these are restrictions for capital improvement projects. So overall, the fund's in a good position there. So then we can go to the next slide. This is the aviation fund, net position. That top line, again, is the net investment in capital assets. The aviation fund has $21 million in net investment in capital assets. And during the year, there were $3.1 million in asset additions, and depreciation of those assets was $147,000. Then that bottom line there, that's the unrestricted net position that can be used as the city would like for the fund. It was down a little bit, 370,000, down to 2.66 million, but overall it's stayed pretty constant there, down a little bit, but not too much of a change. And then you can go to the next slide. This is the total cash that the city had at the end of the year. The top line there is the governmental activities cash balances. There was over $98 million in cash, and the second line there is the business type activities. It had over $64 million in cash, and you can see it's trending upward and seems to be in a good position there. So that's the trends.
If you'd like to go to the next slide, we just, obviously there's a lot of information in the ACFR, detailed information that we may not have covered in this presentation. So if you find yourself with additional questions, you can reach out to us after the meeting regarding your questions. This is our contact information. Once again, we appreciate working with the city. Can we answer any questions at this time?
Are there any questions? No questions at this time. Just thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So for possible action is discussion. Do we want to have any discussion at this time? Is there any comments or thoughts from anyone?
They got a clean report. I'll make unless you have something you want to add, a motion to go ahead and accept.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the presentation. Is there any more discussion?
I thought we're extending the auditing contract for 1 year.
No,
That's the
we're
next
the
item.
next one. We're in number 2.
I'm ahead of the game here.
You
I'm
still
sorry.
want a second? The second?
Yes, I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, perfect. Any more discussion?
No.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to number 3 on the item, eagerly anticipated. Just one little comment, sorry, from the last one is 2-year winner of the Triple Crown. Congratulations. I just wanted to say that. That's really a big deal, and very proud of our city and our city finance committee and the hard work that they're doing. So thank you for keeping us on track and representing us so well and helping us to make sense of something that looks like this. It's appreciated, so thank you. And we will turn time over to Finance Director to talk to us about item number 3 on the agenda, please.
Good. Thank you. So the final piece is to select the auditors for next year, and the city has, or the Finance Department is recommending that we retain Hinton Burdick for their final extension. They originally, the contract was a 5-year contract, and then we had 2 1-year options, and we've exhausted the 5-year contract and 1 renewal, so we've got 1 more renewal available. They've been fabulous to work with. We have no concerns or issues, and we would like to retain them, particularly with a new finance director and a new accounting manager, as we're getting our feet under us, it's helpful to have that consistency on the audit. And then at this time next year, when we complete the audit, we would then do an RFP to take a look at other options out there.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to comment on that?
This is just a not so important question, but is there a reason why the auditors don't come to the audit committee meeting? I know last year was the same. Communication sometimes like today can be difficult. I'm just curious, is that something they don't do anymore, or?
Well, I can't speak to the early years since this is my first year, but with COVID, I think that sort of set the precedent of having the opportunity to do these remote. They are based in St. George, Utah, so it would be a bit of a trek for them. And it's also their very busy season. They're wrapping up their very busy season, so we agreed to do this electronically. If it's the desire of the committee to have them in person, we can absolutely ask them to do that in the future.
And I'd like to say, I agree with Mr. Tobler on that. It was hard to hear them, and I think it'd be a much better presentation if we could have some eye contact.
Sure, we can make that happen.
Absolutely happy to do that, by the way. We're still on the line, so yeah, we're happy to drive down and present in person. It actually is easier for me too.
Great, thank you. Glad you're still on the line. Okay, with that being said, is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I think with the staff wanting to continue on with the final option, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay.
And I'm going to second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend one more year for Hinton Burdett. Any more discussion? Right, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. With that being said, we'll move on to public comment. If there's anyone in chambers who would like to comment, you're welcome to come up. And each person has 5 minutes to speak, and you can call in. The phone number is 702-589-9629. So you're welcome to call in. Were there any written comments submitted?
No written comments were submitted.
Okay, no written, no one in chambers. We'll wait a minute to see if anyone would like to join us via phone. Anyone on the phone? All right. Seeing no one on the phone, we will adjourn. Thank you.